So this is the real why. This is a plan that has been in the works for more than a decade. KTM looks more and more like this Amazon of the motorcycling world, wanting to buy any competitor left in its track. But why? Because some things just don't add up. It's 2013 and the latest news hit the shelves.
Husqvarna, a beloved Swedish motorcycle manufacturer, got acquired by KTM. After 6 years of ownership, their previous owner, BMW, let them go.
You see, Huskies were so different to anything the Bavarians were making that BMW had no idea what to do with it. They had this golden lottery ticket in their hands, but they didn't look up the winning numbers. BMW Motorrad will expand its product offering to exploit future growth potential. The focus of the realignment will be on urban mobility and e-mobility. I don't know who is impressed by BMW's statement. To translate PR talk, this just means we were incapable of figuring out what to do with this brand, so we said screw it and went to design electric scooters for Mrs. Greta.
You see, at that point, Husqvarna's off-road technology was left brittle and unreliable. BMW sunk a lot of money into the Nuda project, which was so niche that even a supermoto rider would look twice at it. As a result, BMW lost 192 million euros in the last 3 years of owning Husqvarna.
And then KTM comes in, closes their factory in Varese, with some outrage that is, but keeps the Husqvarna brand. You see, KTM, despite buying them in their entirety, they managed to put the oxygen mask back on Husqvarna. So that's how Husqvarna got acquired. But what about GasGas? You see, the Spaniards' financial history is about as clean as an American's credit card debt statement, and that has haunted them for years. The Spaniards made some bizarre investments. Investments like huge executive salaries, race teams, a Dakar project, a support truck for a rally team when they didn't even sell anything related to rally bikes, an office in Barcelona so that people didn't have to travel all the way down to Girona, like an hour. You see, this sort of expenses are not a problem for your Ducatis or KTMs of this world. But this was GasGas, and they never really had money to burn. And then there were the lies. When their factory caught fire, GasGas said that everything was alright, when in fact there was nothing left of their parts warehouse. And when trying to get investors, GasGas was a bit optimistic with their sales figures, like 2 times more optimistic. Throughout the years, many people tried to save them. Investors, the government,
Even KTM at one point. Well, that rumor ended badly when the factory workers lit a pile of tires on fire, hung a mannequin in a KTM shirt and wrote friendly messages in German to the Austrian leadership.
GasGas did make good progress with the 2018 models, but it was just too little too late. And to add insult to injury, most of their profit went into the R&D of electric bicycles for their parent company Torot. So their R&D budget for the next years was about as big as this Big Mac menu. And so in 2019, the inevitable happened and KTM finally acquired them. This still doesn't explain why. I mean, both of these companies were crumbling at the time. They had inferior technology, inferior market share. What did KTM see in them that other people didn't? It doesn't make sense. And also, why haven't you subscribed to this channel yet? With Husky, KTM only aimed one shot. They wanted the name.
The history, the heritage. Husqvarna really made a name for themselves in the USA in the 60s and 70s. Even if you look at KTM's website, they display Husqvarna as this history-rich brand. In fact, they just threw all of their old technology in the bin, selling it to GasGas.
But with the Spaniards, their name wasn't really that big, or relevant for that matter. No, here the aim was on something else. Their electric bike technology and the trials lineup. And yet again, all of the other technology that GasGas possessed went out the window, being sold to Rieju. This still doesn't make sense though. I mean, fine, getting the Husky name has to be worth something, but the KTM name is a really strong one too. And trials bikes, that's even more niche than race walking.
58.
Stefan Pirer, the owner of KTM, basically decided to keep all 3 brands and position them slightly differently. Okay, this starts to make some sense. So basically, KTM is their main halo brand. It's the one people can associate with racing and extreme activities, and the R&D sees the light of day first in the orange machines. Then with GasGas. This is the entry-level option. It's more budget-oriented, sometimes compromising on some components, but keeping the quality standard fairly high overall. Right, and so Husqvarna is meant to be the premium option off the road, and on the street it's this retro, urban-inspired design for people that really care about style. I mean, KTM themselves admitted that their goal for Husky was to overtake Ducati and Triumph on the European market. In their design team's own words,
Husqvarna road bikes are a premium product for people who are on the stylish side, very modern. They exist all over the world, in Dubai, in Mumbai and in New York. KTM is for the fastest guy in your town. The breadth of the potential Husqvarna buyer is much greater than KTM.
so with that in mind, Husqvarna should only use premium stuff like Brembos. Oh, they switched over to Bratek. And to add more fuel to the fire, their Northern bike has lesser suspension than KTM's own 890R. Wait, how is this supposed to be a premium brand when it doesn't offer most of the premium features? This doesn't make much sense. If this overlap is so apparent, again, why didn't KTM just let these competitors die? They were already with one foot inside the grave. It still doesn't quite add up. You see, Stefan Pierer did foresee this overlap. Ever since buying Husky, he openly admitted that they were concerned about cannibalizing their own sales.
In his own words, it's never 1 + 1 = 3, but it's certainly 2.7. And there are still 4 Japanese brands from which there's plenty to grab.
Sure, the Austrians do seem to try to keep the identities of their brands fairly different, like they did with the Svartpillen and Vitpillen platforms. But there will always be a fine, delicate line of separation. Their lineups might become too similar. In the motorcycling world, this looks like suicide. Notice that? That little word? In the motorcycling world. That's the key. That's where we need to look at. KTM isn't trying to do anything that any other bike manufacturer ever did. They are taking a page out of Volkswagen's book. These acquisitions, if looked at from a biker's perspective, might not make much sense. But in the car world, they're as common as singing in the shower. Stefan Pierer had this vision for the brand even back in 2013 when they acquired Husqvarna. But it just seems like nobody bat an eye on it until lately. They are implementing the same platform strategy that VW uses for brands like Skoda, Seat, Audi and more. This also allows KTM to build more niche bikes for niche buyers. Bikes that would never fly under a KTM logo. I mean, imagine a KTM Vitpillen, it just doesn't work. It also allows them to sell multiple variations of a bike so that a buyer doesn't have much to nitpick about. You don't like PDS suspension? Get a Husky or a GasGas. Oh, you like composite subframes? Get the Husky. And in recent years, with research costs going through the roof, it allows them to split the cost between multiple entities. It gives them a market advantage that the car world has seen for years. The VAG group has been successful at it for decades, and KTM are the only ones that seem to get it. Oh, and fun fact, they just acquired 25% of MV Agusta. You can take that information and do whatever you want with it. So this is the real why. This is a plan that has been in the works for more than a decade. KTM looks more and more like this Amazon of the motorcycling world, wanting to buy any competitor left in its track. But maybe, just maybe, it's not all grim. Because as with anything, there is another perspective. People love to complain that the Austrians killed the true spirit of Husqvarna and GasGas. Yes, Husqvarna, the Swedish brand that was owned by a German company with a factory in Italy. But think about it, other than nostalgia, how many of you would have actually bought a Husky or a GasGas before? And the funny thing is, you don't even need to answer the question, because we already have that answer. Not enough. It's in the data. It's the reason why these companies were already on their last breath.
They had inferior technology, inferior market share, crumbling financials. They were a mess, and KTM just resurrected them.
Sure, on KTM platforms, but something has to be better than nothing. The harsh reality is, with the economic climate, GasGas and Husqvarna wouldn't have existed in 2023. It's fun to imagine that by themselves they would have risen from the ashes, but that's pure optimism if you ask me. without seeing reality. Numbers don't lie, and the numbers had already marked the death years on their tombstones. Like it or not, KTM was their savior. For better or for worse. Thank you for watching this little video. If you're interested in more like this one, click here to watch the origins of the Piaggio Vespa, the only other two-wheel group that took hints from VW. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, have a good one. Bye.